Okay, moving right along here. This topic is organisation and transport. The second episode I've done on GCSE AQA biology. It includes stuff about the digestive and circulatory systems. So let's start off with the digestive system. What is in it? Well, let's start off. So, the esophagus transports food from the stomach to the mouth. The stomach breaks up protein with protease and contains hydrochloric acid. The pancreas produces enzymes. The large intestine absorbs excess water. The anus disposes of the feces. The rectum stores the feces. The appendix has no use. The liver creates bile. The gallbladder stores bile. The small intestine contains villi and completes digestion. It also breaks up fat in there and absorbs digested food. So the small intestine does quite a few things, to be honest. And that's that part. And then there's these things called enzymes. They're basically biological catalysts, which means they're biological, which they are made out of the body, and they speed up reactions. That's what a catalyst does. You might need that in chemistry as well, which is cool. Enzymes are made up of protein molecules. They're also specific, which means each one does a different job for a particular reaction. So the first enzyme we're going to talk about is amylase. So amylase is made in the pancreas and the salivary glands, and it breaks down starch. It works in the mouth and the small intestine. So what it breaks down starch to is glucose, which is a simple sugar. You will probably need to know this. Just where it's made, where it works, and what it breaks it down to. So then our second enzyme is protease, which works in the stomach and small intestine. It's made in the stomach and the pancreas, so that's the stomach in both, and it breaks down protein to amino acids. Nothing to do with the amino app, that's just terrible. Enzymes, so lipase breaks down fats, also known as lipids, which is why it's called what it is. Works in the small intestine and it's made in the pancreas. To be honest, most of these, I'm pretty sure all of these, work in the small intestine. All of these are also made in the pancreas, which is quite useful if it only asks you to put one. So yeah, they break down fats to fatty acid and glycerol, which is kind of obvious to remember fatty acid because it's just fats, isn't it? So yeah. Now we're going on to the blood. Very good, blood. There are many parts in the blood. The plasma is the liquid part of the blood. It's yellow and it transports substances. It makes up 55% of the blood, which is quite a decent amount if you think about it. Another thing in the blood is platelets, which aren't full cells, which means they don't have a nucleus or anything, but they help the blood to clot, which is very useful if you get like cut or anything. I'm not telling you to, but you know what I mean. The red blood cell is disc-shaped and it has no nucleus, which is its adaptation as we went over last time. It contains hemoglobin, which combines with oxygen to make oxyhemoglobin, which carries oxygen around the body. This will become important later when we get onto the heart in this same video. White blood cells. There are two types of white blood cells. Phagocytes, which kill pathogens by engulfing them. Engulfing is a good word, always use that. And there's another type of white blood cells, lymphocytes, which create antibodies and antitoxins. Yeah, that's it. And yeah, that's why they're called antibiotics, because they contain a similar thing. So, as we're on the blood, now we're on to blood vessels. There are three types of blood vessels: the arteries, the veins, and the capillaries. Arteries tend to carry oxygenated blood away from the heart at a high pressure. They have a tiny lumen and thick walls with no valves. Veins tend to carry deoxygenated blood. They normally carry it back to the heart at low pressure with a small lumen, thinner walls, and valves. And the capillary carries both oxygenated and deoxygenated blood between arteries and veins, so they're like sort of the connection routes between those two things. They carry them at a very low pressure with a large lumen and a wall that's 1 cell thick. 1 cell thick walls are always useful for stuff such as diffusion and osmosis, always remember that. There are no valves in it, which does make a lot of sense. If there was valves and if there was one thing thick, it wouldn't work very well, would it? The heart. This is quite fun. This is a diagram I got off the internet of a cross-section of a heart. The weird thing is, the left is considered the right, and the right is considered the left, not how we would normally look at it. CHD is coronary heart disease, and it happens when the plaque blocks the artery so there's no blood flow to the heart, so it basically stops it working for a bit. It can be fixed by a stent, which widens the artery, or statins, which lower cholesterol. So, yeah, diagram of the heart again. So, that first bit there, they are the vena cava, which are the main veins in the body, carrying blood back to the heart from the body. That's the pulmonary artery, which carries blood to the lungs to get oxygen. Those are the semilunar valves. It's the aorta, which carries the main artery, which is the main artery back to the body, which takes away the oxygenated blood. Pulmonary vein carries blood back to the heart from the lungs. So it goes in this order. It starts with the vena cava because it's bringing it back to the heart once it's being deoxygenated. Then the pulmonary artery, which takes it to the lungs and gets the stuff collected. Then the pulmonary vein, which brings it back from the lungs, which brings back the oxygenated stuff, and then the aorta sends out the oxygenated stuff. It's all a repeating cycle. It happens a lot. There are a lot of different valves. Don't think you need to be able to name them, but you definitely need to be able to name the right atrium, the right ventricle, the left atrium, and the left ventricle, which isn't that hard to remember, really. I mean, they're on the same side, aren't they? This side's got a thicker muscular wall that has to pump it around a lot more. Now, another part of this topic is the breathing system. It's made up of a lot of different things. The nasal cavity, pleural cavity, intercostal muscles, ribs, diaphragm, trachea, lung, bronchus, bronchiole, and the alveoli. The alveoli is the most important thing you need to remember in the breathing system. It basically shows that we inhale oxygen and exhale CO2 as gases diffuse into the blood. And cells use the oxygen, and then cells release CO2 after creating the oxygen. That's kind of a byproduct, you know? And all blood goes through both parts of the heart. So it goes through, all blood has gone around this cycle loads of times. So it starts as deoxygenated, then it becomes oxygenated, then the oxygenated runs out, it becomes deoxygenated again. It's just a repeating cycle, okay?